Actually, the main goal is to enslave and kill everyone on Earth, and it's run by satanic pedivores. So that's the hard thing for people to kind of come, if they didn't know this before, it's a big thing to wake up to.
One of the hardest things for people is to accept that they're not who they think they are, and is almost like a hologram that they've created themselves, and the system is squeezing that hologram more and more, and it's breaking. So then they actually have to face themselves in the mirror. And that's why they killed Michael Jackson, because he wrote that song, The Man in the Mirror, right? I'm talking to the man in the mirror.
1,000 times better than it's ever been. Completely free, completely beautiful, no central banks, no governments, no taxes, no extortion, no government indoctrination camps, no television programming, no vaccines, no chemtrails, all that sort of stuff. No wars, probably not much poverty, if any. That's where we can get to, but you're going to have to get through the next couple of years to get there.
When you look at CBDCs, digital ID, AI, surveillance, and transaction monitoring, what does the end game look like if people don't push back now? Hey Conscious Man 7 family, quick question before we start. Do you love the depth of these conversations but hate when ads break the flow? I get it. Ads can feel like speed bumps on a highway, pulling you out of that deep zone. That's why we created a way for you to enjoy every episode completely ad-free while supporting the show at the same time. For just a few bucks a month on Patreon or Locals, you'll get full access to uninterrupted episodes. You'll get direct access to me so you can ask me any questions that you have, some cool other perks like early releases, and you'll also help us keep bringing you the powerful conversations that mainstream platforms won't touch. The link is in the show notes. Join us there and be part of this movement. Ever look up and see those dull, grey skies streaked with chemtrails and you feel your energy sink? You're not imagining it. Something in you knows the sky isn't supposed to look that way. But what if you could bring back the blue? What if there was a way to clear the air inside you and above you? That's where the Chembo comes in. They create powerful orgonite, tools that generate orgone energy, the life force that helps neutralize EMFs from your mobile phone, your Wi-Fi, and even 5G. It's nature's way of restoring balance, bringing cleaner air, calmer energy, and deeper sleep. Every piece from the Chembo is handmade, from tactical tower busters to beautiful pyramids and jewelry, crafted with the precise ingredients to generate real orgone energy. And here's the best part. They've proven it. For over 10 years, they've cleared thousands of miles of chemtrails, bringing the blue back to the skies around the world. So if you're ready to take back your weather and your well-being, go to thechembo.com. Use coupon code CM7 for 10% off and experience the shift for yourself. Don't fear the chemtrails or the EMF. Be empowered with the Chembo and never feel helpless again. If you are new to this podcast, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and to share, because that helps us to be recommended in the algorithms. If you would like to support this podcast, please check out our merch store on Amazon with the brand Todd and Me. We've got some cool t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, and sweaters. Link will be in the description of this podcast. And if you're now starting a spiritual journey, you would like to start a spiritual journey, or you're currently on a spiritual journey and you would like some help removing some fears and traumas, please hit me up on my Instagram at Adriano_246 and it will help you to get some magic mushrooms. Enjoy the show and stay tuned, because we have some more great content coming soon. What if the collapse is not coming and it is already here? What if inflation, war, censorship, surveillance, and digital control are not separate crises at all, but one system tightening its grip as the empire falls apart? Hello, beautiful and amazing people. Welcome to the Conscious Man 7 podcast. I am your host, Todd Cave. Today's guest is Jeff Berwick, founder of the Dollar Vigilante, founder of Anarchapulco, early Bitcoin advocate, and one of the most outspoken anti-establishment voices in the freedom and conspiracy world. Jeff built Stockhouse in the 1990s, sold it in 2002, traveled to over 100 countries, and has spent years warning that the US dollar system, the illusion of prosperity, and the illusion of freedom were all far weaker than most people realized. His own public bio still frames him as a freedom fighter against the state and central banks, and that is exactly the lane we are going into today. In this episode, we go deep into the collapse of the dollar, the loss of purchasing power of fiat currency, CBDCs, digital ID, crypto, gold and silver, Anarchapulco, Puerto Vallarta, false flags, Iran, spiritual war, and the deeper question behind all of it. Is this just economic decline and political corruption, or are we living through a coordinated assault on consciousness itself? This is not a comfort conversation. This is a dot connecting conversation. So if you came here to think, not just consume, you are in the right place.
When truth is blurred by lies and misinformation, perception becomes reality. What will you perceive your reality to be?
Liberate your fears and walk with me.
Sit down and meditate. Connect with your soul.
Be a monster and then learn how to control it.
You got to be willing to do the work.
So it really goes really deep in terms of words and etymology and what they mean. So this is why it is really hard to really crack the matrix, because there's so many levels and layers to it, Jeff, welcome to the Conscious Man 7 podcast. How are you today, mate?
Good, Todd. Great to talk to you.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to talking to you today, because when I first started the podcast, I had mentioned you both by name and insinuated about you because you were part of my journey waking up, whether you know it or not. But, you really sowed the seeds of doubt in my mind in the early 2015, 2014 time when you were talking about, the Shemitah and the collapse of the dollar and all that kind of stuff. And I became what you call a prepper. I was buying storable food and everything back then. And it was really to you and your wisdom and knowledge about the system, because I got into my awakening through the economic side, and then I transferred into the spiritual side. So I just wanted to give you a bit of credit for helping me along my journey, and just letting you know that you were very much part of what is today the Conscious Man 7.
Well, that's great. And yeah, you followed a similar path to me. I started off with financial economics sort of stuff and ended up in the spiritual sort of area as well.
Yeah. And, it's mad because I find that all roads lead to spirituality. And this is one of the things that most people don't realize, because the system itself is, inverted and is just an extraction system. And when you understand money and economics, I think that you're able to better understand the spiritual side, because currency is just energy, and that is what really money was supposed to be, an exchange of energy and value, but we don't have any of that, So, yeah, go on.
Yeah, everything's been hijacked, everything's been inverted, and that's, part of the awakening process, right? When I first started, I really started with just looking at the world and seeing the monetary system, the central banks, and the governments, and I saw them as basically the main problem in the world, and they are definitely one of the main problems in the world. Government itself is comes from two Latin words, gubernare and mente, which actually translates to mind control, and that's actually what it is. The central banks and all those sort of things. I began with a book by G. Edward Griffin called The Creature from Jekyll Island about, I guess, 25 years ago now, right after 9/11, because my internet company collapsed and I didn't understand how it went from being so small to so big to collapsing all in a very short period of time. And I read that book and I began to understand that, and I began to look into it. At the same time as I was looking into 9/11, which they said was a guy in a cave in Afghanistan with box cutters. And I looked into that and I was like, oh, that's a total lie. And the central banking system is basically a total scam and a lie. And I've just gotten deeper and deeper ever since, until you reach a point where you start to realize that everything here is kind of that way in general. And you begin to really start to wonder what actually reality is. And that's where you can go deeper and deeper until you kind of reach a point, sort of like myself, where I kind of believe this is basically like a 3D video game. It doesn't actually, it's not base level reality. And, I think to an extent, or actually fully, we created this ourselves to have experiences. And that's basically where I've kind of arrived at, especially after doing about 10 years of meditation, sometimes up to 3 or 4 or 5 hours a day. I now meditate in a plasma bath. And so, you kind of just, that's what the apocalypse is as well. And I think this is generally where we're at right now, is the apocalypse, which is basically means the lifting of the veil. And so a lot of people are starting to realize and notice that a lot of things in this reality are basically not what they seem. And the deeper you go into it, the further you go until you finally realize that you created it all yourself. So that's where I've kind of come to at this point.
So before the Dollar Vigilante, Anarchapulco, and before all the warnings about collapse, what was it that made you really stop trusting the official story of money, power, and government?
That's a good question. When I was in my 20s, I started an internet company in Canada, and it went from out of my house to being worth about $240 million, which was a lot of money back in the 90s. Now it's not as much. Like that'd be like a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar company today. So to give people some idea of it, and I really I was mostly focused on that at the time. So I couldn't really think about the world or reality or how anything really worked all that much. I was just in it at the time. And I actually ended up having dinner with Doug Casey in Vancouver around that time. And he asked me a bunch of questions, and he said, "You know what you are, don't you?" And I said, "No, what am I?" Because I hadn't really thought about any of these sort of concepts or anything. And he said, "You're a libertarian." And I didn't even know what that word was. Back then, that was a very not well-known word. And he asked me a few more questions, and he said, "You know what you are, don't you?" And I said, "No, what am I?" And he said, "You're an anarchist." And I actually thought, and it's funny for me to think that now, that I thought anarchists were like people with like black balaclavas that blew things up. Of course, that's not what it is. An anarchist, the word is an without archy rulers. So in fact, if you're an anarchist, you don't believe that people should be slaves. And I think that should be something that most people would believe, you would think, but they've been kind of tricked through the mind control, which is the exact meaning of government, into thinking it's okay if, as long as one group kind of owns all the slaves. So I kind of began just with all that. And then I started to look into everything, like I said, and I ended up starting a podcast called Anarchast around 2011, and it became one of the bigger anarcho-capitalist podcasts on earth. And it eventually led to me starting an event called Anarchapulco in 2015, which just had its 12th year this year here in Mexico. And at the very beginning, I was mostly talking about how we had to get rid of governments and central banks in one way or another, not necessarily violently, but we had to wake people up to what it was. But I've changed a lot since then in that is not the main problem. In fact, the main sort of problem on Earth is that people are so under mind control. The mind control in so many different ways, even just television programming. It's called television programming for a reason. A lot of people stare into that box for hours a day, every day. And now they do it on their phones, which is just an extension of it. And with all the algorithms, they're just basically becoming mind controlled with all these things. And because they become so mind controlled through various ways, including government indoctrination camps, which they call schools, which goes on for 12 years. They're taught all this stuff is normal and it's, that's the way it is and that sort of a thing that people have kind of forgotten or have become mind controlled to not realize that all these things are actually very illegitimate, very nefarious sort of things like governments and central banks. And so I used to focus on that, but now, now actually, I don't really actually try to do anything. I used to have an intention of trying to wake people up to all this stuff, and I still do it, but I don't try to do it so much. I just do what I just follow my passion and just speak what is my truth. And if people listen to me, that's cool. If they don't, that's cool. If they hate me, that's fine. If they love me, okay. Like I'm not really attached to any of that stuff anymore. And it's actually so much better that way, really, because for many years, I did try to wake people up. And what I found was that you can't really do it. It's not that, well, you can. Like you mentioned at the start, I kind of helped you wake up to certain things, and that's great. But it's not many people, and it's not very easy. And most people will kind of just hate you for doing it. They don't want to be woken up out of their trance, basically, because if people listen to some of the things I'm saying, basically what I'm saying is everything they thought was kind of real and true and good in this world actually isn't. And I don't mean like things like love, obviously, like love's fine. I'm talking about like how everything in this world is structured: government, central banks, wars, all these sort of things. And I think for people to actually like accept that everything they thought was good actually isn't, is too hard for most people. So I actually don't really even try to do it anymore, but I just walk with my dogs. And if it wakes up a few people, great. I actually do it mostly because I enjoy it now, which is kind of cool, because I actually didn't even enjoy it when I first started. I actually would drink a lot of wine in order to go and talk on a video every day, or even write a blog, because I didn't actually really enjoy it. But now I've actually restructured my life to the point where actually I enjoy basically everything. I basically live in the present moment. I've taken out most of the traumas out of my head. And because of that, I just kind of go with the flow now. I just completely go with the flow. And right now I'm doing this, and I don't know what I'm going to do next. We'll see what happens, and I'll just go with the flow. So yeah, I've kind of gone, and that actually makes everything so much easier, because when I was really trying to wake people up, it was too frustrating. Even though I have to say, a lot of people are starting to wake up. I think things are becoming so absolutely unbelievably evil in this world at this point that a lot of people just can't even avoid it now. And so, to some extent, maybe what I do now is try to help people to deal with waking up, and that it's okay, and that you're not alone, and that actually it's much better if you do, even though it's really, really hard. Just like most things, it's hard, like some things that are very hard, like becoming like Mr. Universe or something, that's going to be 20, 30 years of your life of a lot of hard work. But, in some ways it's kind of worth it, because then you become Mr. Universe or whatever. So like hard things are actually good, but it's hard for a lot of people to go through them. So I think to some extent, that's kind of what I'm doing now, is kind of helping, people just waking up for the most part, and holding their hand as they wake up, and that it's all good. Like it's actually going to be so much better once you wake up, even though it's going to feel really hard for a period of time.
I concur. I think that waking up is one of the hardest things a human being will have to do, because when I started to wake up, I lost a lot of relationships, friends, family thought I was crazy, and still think I'm crazy up to this day. And, like, because you love them, it hurts to lose them. But I think one of the things that people need to realize is that the journey is solo, and you have to walk it on your own. People can walk their own journey with you, but you walk your journey individually. And I think that that's one of the biggest distinctions that most people don't have today, right? Because like you said, they were so dumbed down, indoctrinated, and brainwashed to put everything on the external. So we need external validation for everything we do. And that's what the screens do, So your whole platform has been built around the collapse of the dollar system. What are the clearest signs right now that tell you that the collapse is not ahead of us, it is already underway?
Well, I should say a collapse, it's not like it's all happens on one day and then that's it. It's a process. And that process has been going on since the founding of the Federal Reserve in 1913, which they actually sank the Titanic to bring in. A lot of people don't realize a lot of the history of all these things. They also brought in the income tax in that exact same year. None of those things existed before in the US, as an example. And so, this has been going on for a long time. You just look at the value of the US dollar in 1913 compared to now. It's down about 99.5% or something like that. So it's been collapsing the whole way along. I think it's actually speeding up now. And that's what we're seeing with gold just recently hit over $5,000. Silver just hit over $120 just a few weeks ago. They're having a pullback now, but that's normal. But you're starting to see that. We're starting to see so many people having trouble surviving because of the inflation now. That's very common in most Western or even most countries in the world now. So, yeah, the collapse is a process, it's ongoing, and it's continuing to go on. And it will eventually reach a sort of a 0 point where actually the dollar won't even exist. And that might even be just a couple of years away now at this point. We're getting quite close to it. And of course, they're going to try to bring in their new system after that. And we'll see if humanity falls for that again or not. But yeah, this is a process, and I've actually done quite well because of it. So I started the Dollar Vigilante newsletter in 2010, right after the 2008 collapse, because I recognized that that was going to be the last collapse before the big collapse. And it's taken about 18 years to this point, or what was it, 2008, 18? Yeah, 18 years. And we're right on the cusp of it right now. And we're actually going to see crises and collapses unlike anything in world history, probably in the next few months. Definitely I would say by the fall of this year, for sure. But it probably will start in just the next 2 or 3 months. So we're at the very, very end stages of it now. And that's, we're starting to see all the symptoms of it, like this war that's going on. This is what systems do when they're in collapse. They're trying to basically destroy the world right now. And what we've realized definitely, like, I've known this for quite a long time, but most people didn't even know until just the last few months that most of the people who control the world are basically satanic pedivores. They're not even pedophiles. They're that as well. They also eat and torture children. And that actually was starting to come out. And that's why they're starting all these World War III right now, all these sort of things. This is the collapse of their entire system. And it's actually a great thing. But people are going to have to be very smart and prepared and do the work to get through the collapse. But if you can get through the collapse, we can probably and possibly move on to a world that will be unbelievably good. But we have to get through this collapse first.
Yeah, I agree. And in your book, The Controlled Demolition of the American Empire, you argue this is more than incompetence. What are the biggest financial detonators you believe were built into the system?
Yeah, that was always a question I heard so often for decades is, are they this stupid or are they actually just evil? It's actually both. The whole system's designed in such a way that they put in all these stupid people to cause all this chaos. But the actual, and by stupid people, I mean basically every politician on earth. That's what they're there for. And they just, do all kinds of stupid stuff. But it's actually also on purpose by the people who actually control it. And that's really the case. But, think about, what are we talking about here? We're talking about governments and what they do, right? The whole thing is we need to get rid of governments as an idea. It basically means mind control. Basically, what needs to actually happen is people need to remember who and what they really are and take control of their own lives and not expect someone else to take care of them. So take individual responsibility. And that's a big part of why people still have this belief in governments. They think it's there to take care of you. Of course, it's becoming very, very clear, especially since the COVIDs, where every government on earth tried to kill everyone with lethal injections. They're now trying to do it by knocking out all of the energy supplies right now as we speak. But yeah, that's actually the main goal, is to enslave and kill everyone on earth. And it's run by satanic pedivores. So that's the hard thing for people to kind of come, if they didn't know this before, it's a big, big thing to wake up to. Like for me personally, every time I discover more about how this all works and who's doing it, Like, for example, 9/11. When I found out about 9/11, because that obviously wasn't what they said it was clearly, and anyone who's looked into it knows, it was basically the CIA and Mossad that did that. And when I found out about that, a lot, like other people I know, when they found out, they were incredibly sad, depressed, furious, angry, all these sort of things. I was excited. It was like for me unlocking oh yeah, that makes more sense. Oh, and so every time I figure out this stuff, even the satanic metaphors, like I don't like it at all. But even finding out about it, I was like, oh, okay, now I know what it is. Because until you can actually figure out what the problem is, you can't possibly fix it. So I actually get excited every time I hear about more information about how all these things are done. But for a lot of people, it's different. It's, I think they've become really attached to their life, which, it sounds kind of like, of course they are, right? But that's the thing. Most people have forgotten who and what they really are, and they believe they are this character inside the video game, and they get really attached to the things in this game. I think Bill Hicks probably said it better than anyone with his final thing that he did, his final show. He said, this is a ride. It goes up and down and round and round. And it's very brightly colored. And that's really what it is. And he even says in it that a lot of people say, but it has to be real. What about my bank account? What about my family and all these sort of things? And that's getting caught in the video game. It's being trapped basically in what you could call the matrix. And I'm not saying like you shouldn't love your family. I absolutely 1000% love my family. It's the best thing in my life, and all my dogs. I love it all. But I do realize that this isn't fully real. We're trapped in sort of like a Matrix 3D video game here, which actually has been kind of taken over by basically, Christoph Melchizedek calls it the mimic mirror consciousness field. But the cool thing is that as you wake up out of it, you can actually stop it, and you can actually manifest reality yourself. And that's what I believe.
Yeah, I really agree with what you're saying there, because I think one of the hardest things for people is to accept that they're not who they think they are, and is almost like a hologram that they've created themselves. And the system is squeezing that hologram more and more, and it's breaking. So then they actually have to face themselves in the mirror. And that's why they killed Michael Jackson, because he wrote that song, The Man in the Mirror, right? I'm talking to the man in the mirror. So that is one of the hardest things for people. And as you had mentioned earlier, ordinary people feel the loss of purchasing power every week now, especially with this war that started. What do most people still fail to understand about how fiat debasement quietly destroys a civilization?
That's a complicated, long story, but basically every fiat currency in history has collapsed. We've seen it countless times throughout history. Even Rome had that happen to it. It's actually the end of failing systems, basically. Of course, there's been Weimar Republic in Germany. There's been Argentina numerous times. There's been Zimbabwe. We're actually starting to see that now with basically all fiat currencies. We're going to be entering into basically the hyperinflationary collapse here very quickly. And a lot of people are saying that. That's why they're seeing the loss of their purchasing power. I've been talking about these sort of things for about 16 years now, and I've been actually basically putting my energy into alternative things, like, for example, cryptocurrency, gold, silver. So I've actually done quite well, while other people who've been saving in like fiat currencies and who make their income in things like fiat currencies are getting pretty much wiped out. So yeah, this is just another way that they destroy people, is they get them addicted to their currency, which is just for the most part, pieces of paper that have nothing backing them at all. And if you actually look around at the back of the $1 bill in the US, there's a pyramid with an all-seeing eye. They don't even hide it. In a place like the UK, they've got satanic pedophores photos right on the money. So like they're not hiding it at all. But, as long as people use that, and this is one of the things I've been saying for a while, as long as people use their currency, because it is energy, they give that satanic pedophore system energy. And if anyone stops using it, it actually starts to take away the energy from that system. So I've talked for quite a long time about trying not to ever even use fiat currencies. And I know it's not that easy. And there's, you have to it takes some effort and it takes some time and you have to talk to people. But try to use things like cryptocurrencies, gold, silver, and not all crypto, by the way. And I wouldn't even recommend Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been mostly hijacked by the satanic pedivore system. But I would recommend something like Monero, which is actually it's actually the best money on earth. It's a completely private currency. It's incredible. And most people don't even know anything about it. So, two of the things that people can do to take away most of the power away from this system is to stop giving them all your money. That's called taxes. It's just basically extortion. And people have been brainwashed into thinking it's normal and it's what we need to have civilization and all these sort of things. So stop doing that. And I know there's risk to that, but figure it out one way or another. And then stop using their currency. And that's even easier. And just start using gold, silver, Monero, things like that. And those two things alone, if a lot of people did it, would very quickly make this entire satanic system go away.
Oh yeah, and I like my editor. I pay him in Bitcoin because he lives in Asia, and it's just easier to transfer to him because to do it with fiat is just way too difficult. Because we tried and we just couldn't get it done. And I asked him, "Would you accept Bitcoin?" He says, "Absolutely." I was like, "Great." And he said, but the thing is, he didn't actually know specifically about it. I said, "Well, what you can do is you can just convert it back to your currency." He says, "Okay, no problem. I trust you." And since he's been using it, he actually sent me a message like a couple of months after. He says, "Todd, thank you for introducing me to Bitcoin because it's just way better to use for me." And he's getting his other clients to pay him in Bitcoin as well. So while I do agree with you with Bitcoin, it does serve as a bit of a medium for transaction of value, especially in places that are difficult to send money, right? Because these satanic pedivores control the system and they purposely make sending value difficult, So
yeah, absolutely. You actually pointed out something I've said so many times is because a lot of people will say, well, if I just start using cryptocurrency, Bitcoin or Monero or whatever, it's not really going to change that much. But what you just pointed out there is exactly what happens. You got that person to wake up to it. They started using it. Now they're starting to tell everyone else to start using it. And that's how these things spread very quickly. And it actually always starts with just one person. So for anyone watching, if you haven't at least started to try to use alternative, not fiat currencies, that's how it works. If you just take the time, just like you did, to tell someone about it, tell them how they can use it, stuff like that, it will actually have massive effects.
Yeah, it is. And the thing is, I think for people, if they do their first transaction and see how easy it is and how quick it is, they will actually change their mindset because of you, I got my whole family into it. So all of my family in Barbados have crypto. And when we want to make large transactions, we use crypto because it's just way easier. Because when I send money to my mother in Barbados, now the central bank buzzes her and asks her what is the reason for her receiving money. And the mad thing about it, right, is that I've been consistently sending money to my mother. So the name for the person doing the transaction has been the same. So I don't know what questions she would need to answer. And we have the same last name. So obviously there's an affiliation there. So, like my mother is fully she gets it that the banks are evil and stuff like that. So
yeah, that's great.
So we recently had your favorite girl, Pam Blondie, talk so much about, the Dow being 50,000 and all that kind of stuff. Now, when you look at gold, silver, energy, and commodities, what are those markets telling you that the mainstream financial narrative, like she was spewing, is trying to hide?
Well, that's another very long answer question. But, when she was talking about the reason she brought up the Dow hitting 50,000 is she was being questioned by Congress, by all the con men in Congress about the Epstein stuff. And her answer was, we shouldn't be focusing on this. The Dow just hit 50,000. Well, first of all, the Dow isn't at 50,000 anymore. It's all starting to collapse now. But the only reason it had hit 50,000 is because of the massive money printing and inflation that had been done, especially after the COVIDs by Donald Trump. So all of these things are illusory. you know, and they're going to be going away. And people need to be waking up to that and starting to move away from all these systems and start, like I said, using crypto, gold, silver, all those sort of things. Get out of even having like mutual funds today. You're basically feeding the beast. It's all controlled by BlackRock, Vanguard. It's all controlled by the same system. And by putting your capital, your assets into those things, you're actually feeding them to destroy this earth. so if people, like people are like, how do we like stop all this stuff from happening? It's like, well, you're mostly causing it. Everyone's causing it themselves by using their currency, by using their systems, by putting their savings into systems that are controlled by them, by giving them your money, called taxes. Stop doing that. And I know that, again, there's a risk with some of those things, but it's mostly illusory, most of that stuff. Most of the stuff they set up, it's actually quite illusory. It mostly relies on people falling for their tricks, is really what it is. So yeah, the more that people wake up to that, the better this world will be. And I think they're going to get a hard wake up call here very quickly. And so I should mention that there's going to be probably fortunes to be made as all this stuff collapses, but you're going to have to be very smart. And that's what our newsletter is for, the Dollar Vigilante. You can just go to dollarvigilante.com. You can even get a free trial for it, dollarvigilante.com/free trial, and check it out. We've been doing incredibly well. We got into Bitcoin at $3, Ethereum at $2. We've been into gold and silver since even before the newsletter started. My partner Ed Bugos was buying gold when it was around $200 in the year 2000. It's now around $5,000. So we're telling people how to escape the system, but you can also prosper massively by doing it. And that's some of the things that people just don't realize.
So you mentioned that obviously there's some real fortunes to be made in the stock market. So I remember when I started to look at history and markets, I was thinking that we were having a melt up before when it was going up to the 50,000 and stuff. So I was even actually expecting it to pull back. I was expecting it to just go higher and higher and higher, just like Weimar, Zimbabwe. Those countries had the best performing stock markets at the time. So I was a little bit surprised by the pullback. So do you think then that we're going to keep falling, or we may have another rise up to have like a melt up to really confront the hyperinflation?
Yeah, the melt up will probably be the final thing that happens. That's when you really go into hyperinflation. We're kind of in a bit of a mix of both right now, a meltdown and a melt up. And that's why it's very confusing for a lot of people. To give you like an example, like let's say the Dow was at 50,000. Let's say it went to 100,000 next year. Most people would say, oh, I just doubled my money. Well, what you have to realize is what is the value of that money? If the dollar goes down by 50% against everything else, including gold, silver, and anything else you might want to buy, oil, food, then you actually didn't make any money whatsoever, right? So all these numbers don't actually really matter that much. It's all a stupid system that really just needs to go away. And once we have actual sound money again, so that'd be something like Monero or something like gold and silver, then you can start to trust things like, the numbers, the price of things. But until that point, it's all just abstraction. And most people will probably never really understand how it all works. And so I would just suggest you get our newsletter and you start to read the stuff we're talking about. And then we can give you the ideas on how to protect yourself and even profit from everything going on.
Okay, so you mentioned it just now in terms of what to get into. So let's talk about what a serious strategy looks like. So for someone watching this now waking up, what does a serious protection strategy look like in practical terms, like allocation numbers, like roughly for a portfolio XYZ?
Well, every single person is different, and it's a very dangerous time right now. But as an example, the Dollar Vigilante portfolio is currently about 20% into crypto, 20% into gold and mining stocks, which could actually go up dramatically as gold and silver continue to go up once they finish this most recent pullback. Then we have about, I think, 40% in gold and silver itself. We've had that ever since 2010, back when gold was $700, silver was like $10. And then we're also about 20% shorting the market. And that means that we are invested in things that will go up if the stock market goes down. And that actually is one of the better investments right now by far. As of this moment in time, I don't know when this video is coming out, but like as of right now, it's an incredibly good time to begin shorting all the stock market and also buying oil. Now, I don't know when this video is going to go out, so I don't know what the price is going to be like then, because that's how fast things are going to be moving. But with the right now, I think oil's around $100. I think it's probably going to $200 to $300 probably in the next few months, definitely this year. So those would be some of the kind of investments that you might want to be involved in.
Well, that has levels. I mean, they have hinted that it will probably go to 200 sometime, but for this year, for it to happen, that would put a huge, huge squeeze on everything, because food will double to triple in price.
Yeah. By the time this video is out, it might already be at 200. That's how fast this is moving. And yes, that's going to cause a massive, massive amount of inflation, what people think of as inflation, the prices rising and everything, including food. A lot of this Middle Eastern so-called war has already knocked out so many of the things that are necessary for fertilizer as well. So we're going to see we're going to see famines, unfortunately, and big ones in the next couple of years. The way it's looking, it looks like probably a few billion people are going to die from just what has been caused in the last few weeks. The price of everything's going to go up so much, most people won't be able to afford it. At the same time, everything's going to be crashing. So any assets that people had in the stock market or mutual funds and things like that, they're going to lose most of it. They're going to lose their jobs if they have a job, because the economy is going to be collapsing. Then on top of that, AI is coming in and people are going to lose their jobs to that anyway. So this is an incredibly crazy period of time. It's the most craziest period in probably human history that's just about to happen. And for me personally, what I do, I'm basically on a ranch in Mexico. I grow all my own food. We have our own water supply. I have a blue roof for the directed energy weapons. And we're just waiting to hunker down and get through the collapse of everything. I wouldn't want to be in any major city in the world over the next year or so. I think once the oil shock comes in, there might be electrical problems, there might be blackouts. The supermarkets might be empty. They're already starting to empty in Australia right now. Once people are hungry and scared and there's no power, it could get incredibly crazy. So that's what I'm talking about here. This isn't the time to be thinking everything's going to be fairly normal over the next year or two. It's going to be the exact opposite. And it's already baked in the cake with all the oil that's been taken offline just in the last 2 weeks. Major refineries and oil wells and stuff like that in, of course, Iran, in United Arab Emirates, and Qatar, and Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia, even in Israel. Ukraine just bombed Russia's, one of its top refineries. And then even in the U.S., they just had a fire explosion happen at one of their top refineries in Texas. So this is actually a plan. This is an agenda by the satanic pedivores to take out basically most of the world. This is what we're talking about here. So this is going to be crazy. If people thought the COVIDs was crazy, this could be COVIDs times 100. And this is what they said they were going to do. This is what Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum said, that after the COVIDs, they're going to do cyber attacks. And we haven't even seen the full cyber attacks yet, but we've seen their other attacks on the world energy systems. And he said that it will make the COVID-19 look like a minor disturbance, and it will. And this is going to happen very quickly in the next few weeks and months. So people should be prepping, getting ready, having a bug out plan, have lots of food storage like you said you had, and, check the dates on those, because, you said you were buying them in 2015. They might be out of date. Make sure you're up to date on that. I would get out of major cities. I would get, do what I'm doing. Now, I know not everyone can do that. I totally understand that. But, do whatever you can to prepare for what's coming.
Yes, definitely. One of the things that I did when I went home to Barbados is that I planted some coconut trees for the family. And because of your advice, I have spoken to my family, and we are farmers at home in Barbados, but we are making a conscientious effort now to grow our fruits and veg and herbs and stuff like that, so that, if things go Pete Tong, in a couple of years, we have coconuts that we can survive off. We've got 25 trees now planted. We just planted some dragon fruit, and, we have like lemon trees, we have oranges, papaya, mangoes. We're really stepping it up because we're seeing real time that these things are really going up, And when I was home in Barbados, I was showing my mom, I was saying, Mom, like, we might look at the price of silver and look at the price of gold and look at everything. And she's like, she gets a little bit scared. I said, don't worry, we doing the right things, And, she's got crypto as well. And, you had said that you were an early Bitcoin adopter and you recommended Bitcoin at $3, but you also make it clear to people that not all crypto is freedom money. What separates real decentralization from a digital trap dressed up as freedom?
Yeah, it's a good question. When I first got into Bitcoin in 2011, I actually thought it was what Monero is today. I thought it was completely private, but that's turned out to not be the case with things like coin analytics and things like that. Every single Bitcoin transaction is public, so it's not private. It also, because of that, it's actually insane to use it as money. Who would use a money that every single person on earth can watch every transaction you make and see exactly where it's going and who's doing it and all these sort of things? So, just based on that alone, I basically don't own any Bitcoin anymore. I actually sold most of what I had left, over 100,000 recently, which actually we said in the newsletter, in the Crypto Vigilante newsletter, which is our other newsletter we have, to start selling above 100,000. It's now down to about 70,000. So we've already been doing well with that. But the crypto that interests me now is mainly Monero and also Pirate Chain. Those are the two that I like the best. And those are, if everyone on Earth started using that, all these problems would go away. All the wars would stop. All the central banks and the governments would go away. There'd be hardly any poverty. We'd have just a million times better world. But most people don't even know about them. They've never even heard of them. So we're still a ways away from that.
Oh yeah, we're definitely way. And you were very bullish on crypto in general and Monero and Pirate Chain. So when most people now see the space as just either a scam or a casino or another trap, what makes you so bullish on those cryptos for the normie to understand?
Well, I should say I'm not necessarily bullish right now because we're in a period where everything is going to start collapsing, and I expect that will hit all the cryptos as well. But in the long term, I'm more bullish on things like Monero and Pirate Chain because it is such a better money than any other cryptocurrencies out there. But, with everything going on, I don't even know if the internet's going to exist. I don't know if anyone's going to have any power to get on the internet in the next couple of years. So I'm not necessarily super bullish on any of that stuff right now. But I do use it. Like most of the transactions that I or my businesses make are in crypto. And it's for all the reasons that you said too. It's just so much better than banks. You can transfer any amount at any time. It's almost free. No one can stop it. And if you're using a privacy coin, no one even knows it happened. That is so much better than going through your bank and they're freezing your funds and asking you what you're doing with it and all this sort of stuff. So actually use it. But I'm not necessarily saying people should go and buy any of these things right now. I think we're going to see a big drop in most things actually in the next few months.
Yeah, and I think that for people that are listening to this, I think that Jeff has one of the best sets of let me phrase that. Jeff has one of the best teams in the entire space for crypto and investing. And his calls and his team's calls are stellar because his team have been tracking crypto from the beginning, the genesis. And I don't think anyone is going to have any problems if they just listen to the videos and just do what they say, because to be fair, his calls have been very good. I remember when your team made the call, I think it was in 2017, that's when Bitcoin first started to really go up. You said, sell all your Bitcoin and buy gold because it will hold its value. And most people didn't listen to you, including me. I put my hand up and said, didn't listen. But since then, I've been listening to you, man, because your team's calls are pretty good, you know? And I would encourage anyone that really want to really understand the crypto vigilante with Raphael Leverd. His videos are very informative. And then they want to get into more sophisticated stuff, the cryptovigilante.io, where they bring out their newsletter and their calls. I think y'all will be in pretty good hands. And I've had Raphael on the show already. And, so, guys, I only bring the best people that I can find when we're talking about certain subjects, So Jeff and his team, you're not going to go wrong with him. And my father, he used to binge on your stuff as well. My father is 70, you know what I mean? So I got the whole family involved, So guys, we can take a very short break here to say, if this conversation is resonating, type wake up in the comments and send this episode to one person who still thinks the system is stable, the media is honest, and freedom is guaranteed. And if you're new here, follow the Conscious Man 7 podcast, because this is where we go beyond the surface narratives and into the truth, sovereignty, health, consciousness, and the hidden forces shaping our world. Follow us on Instagram at Adriano_246 or the Conscious Man 7 podcast, or Todd Cave on Facebook to see what we get up to during the week, to see how I merge fitness, consciousness, and spirituality to help people not only get into the best shape of their lives, but also level up in other areas of their life. Don't forget to check out the sponsor of our show, The Kembo, at thekembo.com, to get yourself some cool orgonite pyramids, tower busters, and jewelry which create orgone energy, which is the life source energy and neutralizes those nasty EMF waves that we are constantly bombarded with. Use coupon code CM7 to get 10% off your order. Now back to Jeff. So when you look at CBDCs, digital ID, AI, surveillance, and transaction monitoring, what does the end game look like if people don't push back now?
It's a good question, because I don't even know if you can push back. Well, I guess you could. Like, if everyone woke up right now and stopped using the fiat currencies and the banks and started using cryptocurrency, and stopped actually giving the governments their money, called taxes and stuff like that. If that did happen, that's how you could stop it. But I don't see many people at all doing any of those sort of things. Beyond that, there isn't a lot. Like, you can't. Well, I guess another thing you can do is not use their. Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to think. Is there any way out for most people? They're going to try to push these things through. I don't think they're going to be successful, by the way. I think all of their things are collapsing and it's all falling apart. I think all of their systems are going to fall apart probably in the next 2 years. So it's more of a thing of surviving, because everything's going to be collapsing during the next couple of years. And they're going to be trying to kill as many people as they can during this period of time. They already tried with the COVID, with the lethal injections. Like, it shouldn't be news to anybody. They're really trying to kill everyone. They're actually trying to get the nanotech into you as well, so they can connect you to the AI through the 5G system. That's a whole other story. So really, you need to be focused mostly on your physical detoxing. I do saunas every day, as an example. I also have a Tesla machine, which is super good to keep your blood from clotting up from all the stuff they're putting in, the nanotech and the graphene and stuff like that. So those are some of the things I'm doing physically. Also, obviously, good diet. Be careful what you eat. They're trying to poison most of the food supply right now. It's already been kind of poisoned in many ways for decades. Things like pasteurized milk and that sort of stuff. They won't let you have raw milk, stuff like that. But yeah, so, try to get as good of a diet as possible. Don't eat at any chain, franchise, fast food restaurant. That's all basically poison. They've got poison in everything now. And some of those poisons are just things like seed oils, but those just dramatically hurt your health. So anyway, do your physical, do your mental, meditate every day. Try to get really connected with source. Also, by doing meditation, try to look at the traumas you have and try to heal those traumas so that you aren't affected by them, because those actually affect everything you do. And then by doing those, so you have a clean temple, you have a clean mind, you can connect more with source, and then you can actually get downloads, you can get all kinds of power-ups, all kinds of things. And if you get to a certain level, you can even manifest reality. So you can manifest whatever you want. So that's the things to do. Those are the key things to do.
Yes, you very much echo what I say with my clients, what I say on social media, what I say on the podcast, which is you need to work on yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually. Because
Yep.
I find that today we have some people that only focus on the fitness aspect. But when you look at them online, you can see that they're very hollow on the inside. They're very egotistical, and it's just vanity that they're doing it for. Then you look on the people that are on the super spiritual side, but their bodies are not really strong and robust that they can, withstand a strong wind, So, those people still have to think about getting into shape physically as well. And then there's some people that would just want to meditate all day and become breatharians, but, you still have to get the body strong. You still have to, eat a good diet, so it's not just all about fasting. So I find that we have like extremes for all of these aspects that we need to work on, which is why my show is called The Conscious Man 7, because the 7 is for aligning the 7 chakras in the body to bring in illumination into the body. And, I am conscious, and I try to teach people to be conscious, So a lot of people still hear digital ID and think convenience. Why do you hear digital ID and think digital prison?
Yeah, so that's one of the big things Bill Gates has been trying to bring out. That was a big part of the COVIDs with the digital, the vaccine passports and all these sort of things. And now they're ramping it up with Palantir, which is Peter Thiel, and basically trying to track database everyone on Earth, even including putting nanotech into most people, and they're even tracking you through that. So the digital ID is just part of that. And it's basically this tyrannical sort of one world government that they're trying to put in. Even Elon Musk and Donald Trump all bragged about they're trying to bring in their new world order, this technocratic, basically satanic pedophore new world order, where everyone will be basically slaves. And with the digital sort of ID, which they're already doing in various ways through biometrics, Palantir and things like that are already tracking everything. They intend to actually use the nanotech and stuff to control you via the AI and basically make you a slave and or kill you, or various things like that. So that's basically what they want to do. So if you're asking me, should you get a digital ID from the government? Absolutely not. You should do everything you can to avoid it. It will just put you into an even deeper database where they'll be trying to destroy you with it. And you mentioned that a lot of people say, oh, but it's convenient. And yeah, that's what they always sell these things as, is, oh, it'll make your life more convenient. You just go to the store and they'll see your eyes and they'll already know who you are, and they'll take it out of your CBDC account. And yeah, that's, I'd go for less convenience and more freedom and more being outside of all their systems. That'll be one of the only ways to survive. They want to put everyone in these smart cities now. They want to be giving you your injections. All these injections, as we know, just makes you sicker or makes you more controlled by the AI and things like that. So all of these things are a very dangerous road to go down. But of course, they make it very difficult to even avoid. And that's something that a lot of people, including myself, are going to have to make some hard decisions over the next little while. Is, like, for example, if they said I had to have a government digital ID with my biometrics to travel, I might have to really consider if I want to do that, or do I want to just never travel again, right? Because these are some of the really tough decisions that people are going to have to make over the next few years. And of course, they already did that with the lethal injections, the vaccines. And a lot of people chose injecting themselves with poison just so they could travel. I didn't. And obviously back then it was so much easier because it wasn't digital. You just needed a piece of paper that you could just print up with Photoshop and show it to somebody, and that was the proof. But once they get it to digital, and once it's tied to your actual eyes and your fingerprints and all these sort of things, it'll be much, much harder to escape. The good news is, like I said, I think all this stuff's going to be collapsing over the next couple of years. So really, we just mostly need to figure out how to survive the next couple of years as they're all going down. They're going to try to take as many people as they can with them. And once we get beyond that, we'll probably go to a world that'll be, 1,000 times better than it's ever been. Completely free, completely beautiful, no central banks, no governments, no taxes, no extortion, no government indoctrination camps, no television programming, no vaccines, no chemtrails, all that sort of stuff. No wars, probably not much poverty, if any. That's where we can get to, but you're going to have to get through the next couple of years to get there.
Yeah, and they're putting a lot of steps in place to make it more and more difficult. Just like I'm probably sure you're aware that from the 1st of January, all citizens, including permanent residents in Mexico, have to register their CURP with their phone number. If not, after June the 30th, you will be getting no more cellular service until you register. So, it's what even in Mexico, they're doing those things. Now, for most of the people that I've spoken to, they've not done it yet. So I am wondering if Mexicans are going to be in Mexican fashion where they do it all at the last minute, or if they're just not going to do it. So what are your thoughts on that? And have you registered your CURP with your phone number and all that stuff as well?
No, I'll probably never do anything like that. I live outside of all their systems, right? I don't need all of their things. And if let's say I needed a phone number, which I really don't. I actually haven't made a phone call since the 1990s. But let's say they made it so you needed this biometric to get on the internet or something like that. I would probably find some way to hack my way around it, either paying someone to use their biometric ID to get on or something along those lines. Or even there's going to be lots of hackers that are going to come up with hacks. We've already seen it so many ways. So I'll just, like everything, like I've done this my whole life. I've never really been in any of their systems. I paid taxes a couple times, but I actually even lied on that and didn't even pay it. But I filled out the forms a couple times until I was like, what is this? I'm not doing this. I've stayed outside most of their systems. I do have a passport. I actually have numerous passports. It's kind of funny because I prefer not to have any, because you shouldn't need a document from a government to be able to travel. But in this world lately, it's been better to have numerous passports so you can avoid certain things in each different country. So that's the way I've been doing it with that. So like I was saying, you have to just make your own decisions, how far you're going to go into the system, what you're going to do to get around it. What are you willing to give up to get around it? Are you even willing to give up your life to stay out of their systems? That's, another question that some people will probably have to answer at some point. And my whole take is actually that I'm just going to go with the flow and actually stay connected to source and actually let source guide me through all this stuff. So, like let's say I needed a digital biometric ID, or I really couldn't barely live. I would actually ask source. So I'd go into a meditation, and I'd ask, and I'd get an answer, because, that's our direct Wi-Fi connection that we all have. And you do get answers in various forms. It's usually symbolic. Something will pop up on your screen, but most people don't notice these things because they're not conscious, right? So I'd just ask source and see what the best way around it is. But, even at the end of the day, what did I just say at the start, right? None of this is real. This is like a 3D video game we created for ourselves. So I'm not worried about anything, like nothing, like zero. I know what this all is. It's an experience we created for ourselves. And so, even if I end up dead because of, I'm trying to avoid all the biometric stuff and they caught me and they shoot me, that's fine. That's part of the video game. If that's what happens, I'm totally open. Whatever is going to happen is cool. It's part of the video game. I'm not worried about it. But while I'm playing inside the matrix in the game here, I am trying to win to some extent. And that is basically to get rid of the satanic pedophore system and to live through everything they throw at us so we can get through to the other side. But even if I don't, it's no big deal. It's like I have no connection to the outcome. I'm not worried about a thing. All of this is just an experience we're having, and it's actually all such a beautiful experience. We have so many beautiful experiences, even in the bad times. It's the bad times as well show us some incredibly beautiful things that happen. Like even you hear about it all the time. It's like what most of the great books are about, people who have been in wars and how this beautiful thing happened where these people, banded together and they got through it together and all that kind of stuff. And so whatever is going to happen, I'm not tied to it whatsoever. I'm just pretty much going to go with the flow through all of it and see where it gets me.
Yeah, I agree. The thing is that I kind of live my life a little bit like that as well, where I do my absolute best to not worry and only worry about things that are in my control. Because when things are not in your control, you're only expending energy into things that don't really serve you. Because, like Joe Dispenza says, where your focus goes, energy flows, and where the energy goes is the reality you create. So I do my best to not worry, and I try to stay with the system as much as well, just like you. And I think it's going to be a very interesting times because we are going to get a lot of challenges. And like you rightly said, the challenges, when you're going through them, obviously they don't feel good, but they really create character. And your character is forged through the fire. And when you come out to the fire, then you look back and says, you wouldn't necessarily use the words good, but it would say, well, I became this or that through the fire. And we're like here in Mexico, is a cash economy, and people basically, use phones for sending money to and for and stuff like that as well. So it's going to be interesting to see if most Mexicans actually register their CURP to get cellular service or not. Because I think at the moment, only 1% have actually done it. So we'll see if in true Mexican form is lastminute.com. But I have a strange feeling that a lot of people may not do it, because a lot of people don't really check for what the government says. They just always find a way to get around it. That's one of the things I love about Mexico, They just have that mindset. Whereas yeah, okay, well, let me find who I can pay over here to help me, or something like that.
That's what I love about Mexico too. Like that's how the people in general are. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if just hardly anyone does it. It just kind of goes away. And that's really how it works. You see a lot of people in the Western countries, they're so enslaved and so programmed that whatever the government tells them to do, they just go do it. And that's why they're ending up in these horrible situations now.
Absolutely. We are very, we live off of fear porn in the West. Well, here in Mexico, it's almost like a bubble. Most people here don't even know what's going on in the world outside. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but at the same time, I do think you should have some consciousness, some awareness of it. But here is like another extreme where it is literally like a bubble, where those things don't exist at all. So some things I think are just not going to happen here because people just don't care, literally,
Yeah, it's great. That's why I've lived here for like 20 years for that reason. Like these are my kind of people.
Absolutely. Now, once money becomes fully programmable, what becomes easiest to shut down? Is it dissent, movement, privacy, or the ability to live outside the system?
All of them. Once it becomes to that extent, all that stuff will be very difficult. Yeah, obviously, like dissent, that's going to be the social credit score sort of a thing. We're already seeing it. We've already seen it in so many ways on the social media. If you say anything about Israel or Jews or anything, you're banned, you're blocked, you're censored, your bank accounts are shut down. We're already seeing all that kind of stuff. Privacy, forget about privacy for the most part in today's world. You really just barely have any. But that's why it's important that when you do have the opportunity to keep your privacy, that you do. And that's things like using Monero and Pirate Chain and stuff like that, using like Graphene OS, using Linux. These are all things we talk about in the Crypto Vigilante newsletter and the Dollar Vigilante newsletter, by the way. So how to keep at least some of your privacy. What were the other things you mentioned? You mentioned dissent, privacy.
Dissent, privacy, and movement. So like obviously traveling and stuff like that, living outside the system.
Yeah, movement, we've already seen that, right? During the COVIDs, that will become incredibly hard. That's why I'm pretty much on a ranch, and I'm perfectly fine if I can't really leave here for a few years. That's what I've actually been planning for. I know a lot of people can't do that. Well, actually, they can. That's the thing. Like most people can do that, but they can't open their mind up enough to it. Like I've heard so many people, they're like, oh, but I live in England. I only make about $40,000 a year. I've got a bunch of debt. How could I possibly live off grid in a place like Mexico? It's like, well, you've probably got your credit cards, right? So take out a few $1,000s more worth of debt, get a plane ticket, go find a piece of land where no one's really living, figure it out, start building a hut. don't pay off your debt. That's all BS anyway. And try to even start up like what you're doing, right? Like start growing some coconut trees and maybe selling some of the coconuts, and then you get a little bit of an income. And, but most people can't, for some reason, most people can't really think that way. I think it's mostly the programming. They're told, well, what I was told, I was supposed to go through 12 years of government indoctrination camps, then 4 years in a communist college, where I'll be in debt for the rest of my life. And then I'm supposed to get a 9-to-5 job and drive an hour each way to work for the rest of my life while I pay off my mortgage, which is French for death contract. It's like, yeah, that's what you were told to do, but you don't have to do it. And actually, the more that you just walk away from their systems and just go and try to live like your passion, your dream, it actually happens. You actually create those things. The doors open once you close other doors. This is how basically this 3D video game works. But people are so scared to close the last door that they never do it. And therefore, no other doors open for them.
What I find crazy is that most people today, a lot of people today say this term a lot. I can't. I can't literally means I won't. And what you were saying just now is so true, where people say, oh, I can't do this because I have loan debts and all that kind of stuff. And what people don't really realize is that the way our system is, there's a little bit of a hack, but it comes obviously at a cost. If you were to do like what Jeff is saying and get a little bit more debt, just leave the country, shut off your phone, never pay, and it goes away, right? Because what are they going to do? If you're in England or Germany or United States and you go to a country like Costa Rica, Mexico, say Paraguay, who do you think the banks are actually going to come and look for you in those countries to pay the debt? You know what I mean? But most people are so afraid, oh, my credit score and stuff. But when you realize that the money is all made up, you realize that it doesn't make sense to even try. Just play the system. And one of my good mates, he told me this. He says, get some loans, get some crypto, and just F off when you're done. You know what I mean? Don't come back to the country. And I'm sure that that's pretty much what he's done, because I've not heard from him for years. But and then he said, like, what you can do is go to one of these debt charities, agree to that you show them that you can't pay $1, €1, £1 a month, and the people will accept that, and then they'll just leave you alone because it looks like you're having good faith, and 7 years later, it's wiped away. Credit score is back to to full, right? So all these are little hacks in the system that, people just have to have a little bit of bravery and say, I can, I will do, I have to, I must, because I can't is a limiting belief. And most people live in limitation these days,
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever said I can't do anything. Like, I'm trying to think. I must have said it at some point in my life, but it is like those words don't really exist to me. Now, of course, like, there's things I don't want to do. That's a little different, but can't? No, I can do anything. You just have to put your mind to it. And actually manifest it. And that's the thing that most people don't know. They don't know how powerful they are. They don't know how this entire matrix reality works. If you have an intention and you start moving in that direction, there will be doors that will open to you. And what most people don't know is that that's actually true. So they're actually super scared because they don't, in their mind, they don't know that that's actually going to happen. And you don't know it's going to happen until it does. And it usually happens in such a way that you can never imagine how it would have happened. That's the most beautiful thing. I've had that happen hundreds of times in my life. It's just like incredible things that even when it happened at the time, I didn't realize it. And then years later, I'm like, oh, that led to that, which led to that, which led to this beautiful thing and that beautiful thing. But most people still aren't aware of that at all. And, I think they're also trying to play it safe. I just want to be safe. I'll just keep paying my taxes. I'll sit in my smart city. I'll watch my television programming and, I'll eventually die. But when you realize that this is actually basically like a 3D video game that you created yourself, why would you ever, like, who plays a video game? Who gets a video game, plugs it in like it's a sim game, and goes, all right, I'm going to sit in my house for like the rest of my life, just pay my taxes, and hopefully nothing bad will happen to me. It's like, no. Like all the video games you get, it's like, I'm going to go storm the castle and take out the king and, blah, blah, blah. But, in this one, the actual only one that actually kind of exists, they don't do any of those sort of things.
Absolutely. And even this conversation now is a confirmation of everything you said, because I basically got my start into podcasting and what I do in 2021 when I spoke at the Anarchapulco Digital Summit. Then I spoke in 2022 at Anarchapulco, and then I met you for the first time. Actually, no, I had met you in 2019 at Anarchapulco when it was at the Princess, right? And then in 2023, when I spoke again, we spoke after in one of the evenings, and you said, well, why don't you start a podcast? Now, at that time, that was the furthest thing from my mind. So this conversation indirectly came from the conversation you had, because it sowed my subconscious about what I should do. And then basically I saw Max Egan talking about AI singularity. And then literally the voice, as I call it, just said, contact Max, contact Jeff. And I contacted you all the same time. And I recorded with him last week. So his show is going to come out just before yours. And that is just how it is. I never had an idea in 2023 that I would be talking to you on my show or that I would do a podcast. So everything you said about just like finding your passion, just trusting source, just not really giving it too much of a worry or a stress, and it will just happen. And this conversation is a confirmation of just letting go, because, I do my own stuff. And then it was just like, yeah, just reach out to you, reach out to Max, and boom, both of you all are on the show, So let's switch gears and talk about Anarchapulco and the recent event in Puerto Vallarta, false flags and all that good stuff. So for people who have heard the name but don't really understand it, what is Anarchapulco now? Is it a conference, a tribe, a parallel culture, or a real-world experiment in sovereignty?
Good question. Actually, I don't really know what it is. It just is. And people keep coming to it. That's really what it is. And it's all about the people. Obviously, without the people who speak and the people who come, there's no event whatsoever. So actually, people create the event themselves. It tends to be mostly about certain general topics like freedom or truth. But then those conversations go into every facet of everything that you can even imagine. We have so many incredible speakers, so many incredible people come to the event. And even yourself, like I was always, because I met you a couple of times at Anarchapulco, and every time I ran into you, you were blowing my mind with information you had. And that's why I said to you, you have to start like a podcast or something, because, and that you're the kind of people I meet at Anarchapulco, right? So that's what it is. I mostly just keep it running because everyone wants it, and people seem to love it. And lots of amazing things come out of it, like even like the Jones Plantation movie that came out of Anarchapulco when Andrew Treglia met Larkin Rose there. Those sort of incredible things happen at the event. As for what it is, I don't really even put a label on it anymore. It's just Anarchapulco. And if you're into anything about finding out the truth or freedom or how to have more freedom or what freedom is, you should come check it out. And that's basically about it. Like we really don't have a tagline or anything. Like we have one every year, but it doesn't really describe the event. What was this year? I can't even remember now.
Neither can I.
Oh, Genesis, because we just moved to Puerto Vallarta. So that name popped into my head, Genesis, because Genesis is like a new beginning, basically. And that was our first year outside of Acapulco. But we've had, like during the COVIDs, one of our themes, like our tagline for the event was breathe, right? As everyone's wearing surgeon's masks, none of us were wearing surgeon's masks, and our tagline was just breathe, right? So it's that kind of event. I guess you can call it an event. It's a thing. It's but we don't really put labels on it too much. It's just what it is.
So would you say then that the event, because you started it in 2015 and it was just a random get together where people were speaking on the beach or something like that. So do you feel the event has evolved from an anarchist gathering into something broader and more civilizational?
It's definitely gone beyond just anarchy. It actually started with the reason I started it was that there was no event I could see in the world that was actually focused on what I would call an anarcho-capitalist, which I would just basically say is a true anarchist, not an anarcho-communist. Anarcho-communism really doesn't exist. It's a crazy idea because anarchy means no rulers and communism means you have a giant ruler who basically makes sure that everyone is poor, is basically what it is, basically. So there was no event. Like there was like Freedom Fest in the US, but that was not an anarchist event. There was a lot of statists there. There's Pork Fest up in New Hampshire, which has a lot of anarchists, but not everyone is. There's some libertarian, small government statists that are there. So there was actually no event on earth that I knew of that was actually focused on true freedom, true voluntarism, true complete non-slavery. So that's why I started it. And it was actually very focused on just the government and central bank aspect of things at the very first couple of years. Most of the speakers were just talking about how bad the government is. Here's all the stats. Here's why I'd be better with less government. Here's why I'd be even better with no government. Here's how things would work, all that kind of stuff. But over the years, I actually changed myself personally as I began doing self-work, and I did a boga, I did hypnotherapy, I was meditating hours a day, and I began to realize that governments and central banks aren't the world's biggest problem. The world's biggest problem is everyone's own mind is actually their own problem. The mind that people stay trapped in of their own mind is actually the biggest problem for almost every person on earth. And the things that are in their mind and their programming and their traumas actually create all their problems. So that's where I kind of got to. And so now it's kind of just evolved, like I said, into we talk about anything you can imagine about truth. Is that true? Here's some theories about what might be true. Did dinosaurs exist? Probably not. Did they go to the moon? No, obviously. Stuff like that. Is the Earth flat? We had a debate on it the last few years. I win the debate every time, in my opinion, because basically my theory on flat Earth or globe Earth is the Earth doesn't exist. And that's true. It actually doesn't exist. None of this stuff actually exists. This is a 3D video game that we made for ourselves. Basically, we're basically in the mind of God having an experience, right? So that's kind of how it's evolved. And actually, a lot of the conferences evolved a lot in that way. We've always had psychedelics. I think since the second year we did it, we had ayahuasca and DMT and stuff like that. And that's continued on. And a lot of people have gotten more into those sort of things. So yeah, it's kind of like what, I don't know. I don't even know what you would call it. I think everyone thinks it's something different. I think that's cool. I think that's like what's cool about Anarchapulco. It's something different to everybody, but it's something.
Well, I can tell you something, Jeff. I didn't tell you this when I first met you, but one of the main reasons why I came to Anarchapulco was to do ayahuasca. Because I remember in 2018, that was when I was going through the thick of it. And you had made a video in June. I will never forget, June 2018. And you started to talk about Anarchapulco. After that video, I bought the ticket. I didn't buy the flight yet. I didn't know what it was going to look like. I said, I'm going. And that's it. And doing the ayahuasca basically opened the door to everything that I do now. And then the next year, I went back and I did Bufo. And that further changed things in my mind. And this is why I openly talk about psychedelics and, as being part of my journey, because I knew at that time I needed something different. I knew that what I was dealing with was it was a mental breakdown, I guess you can call it. But at the same time, it was deeper than that. It was just this feeling like I know I don't belong in England anymore. I know that what I'm doing as being a civil engineer is not really what my purpose and path is. And I literally just took the biggest risk of my life, really, and just came down and just said, okay, I'm just going to do it. You know what I mean? Because and something just said to me, and at that time I couldn't even explain that it was source communicating to me, but there's something inside me that just said, okay, Berwick has gotten calls right about crypto. He's talking about his changes with ayahuasca. I'm just going to try it. Let's go. I did some research, obviously, but I just trusted. And then, I met Remy, and, I go to his Kumankaya retreat once a year now. So, all because of Anarchapulco. So it's a great event for people to network, and if you want to try medicine for the first time, you can try it. So, everything that you're saying is right about how the conference is. It's something there for everyone, because even like there was this, you can get to try the Tesla machines that you talk about as well. So there's so many different things there for people. So I'm almost sure that there'd be something for everybody, even if it's just one thing there. So you had spoken recently about the chaos in Puerto Vallarta surrounding the reported operation against El Mencho. What did you actually witness, and what about the official story did not sit right with you?
Well, yeah, I was in Puerto Vallarta. It was the last day that we were having our own events at Anarchapulco. It was actually the Crypto Vigilante Summits day on Sunday. And I woke up and my driver told me, I can't take you to the event. And I was like, why? He's like, the whole street's on fire outside. His car's on fire everywhere, and it's not safe to go out there. And I was like, what? And pretty quickly I realized that there was something going on. And it turned out there was hundreds of buses and cars that were lit on fire in Puerto Vallarta, but that was about it. And a couple of OXXO stores, which is like a 7-Eleven, as you probably know, being in Mexico. And that was it. And then they just all went away. But we didn't know that at the time, that it was mostly just, it looked like a staged event. Actually, I went and I made sure everyone who was at the event was basically safe. We actually helped a few people. One lady was in a burning building. We helped her get out. We had to get people out of the convention center. We actually arranged ambulances to come and sneak them out of there, because we didn't know how dangerous it was on the street. And then once everyone was basically safe, I basically went and meditated for like 4 hours, and I had actually the most incredible meditation I've had in years. I felt complete peace, complete safety. I fell asleep after that and woke up like 12 hours later, and everything was over, and we just drove off and left. So it was like this stage sort of event that they wanted to do, probably somewhat tied to Anarchapulco, because they always hit us with stuff all the time. They've hit us with a Cat 5 hurricane. They hit us with a double Cat 3 hurricane. They hit us with a 7.2 earthquake, which is a huge earthquake. When Ron Paul was going to step on stage, that might have been the year you were there. It was 2018 or 2019. There was a shooting before the event. I don't know if that was staged. I don't think it was staged exactly, but it might have been CIA sort of related in having that person killed. And it was international news just days before our event that an American was killed in Mexico at an anarchist event. And so almost every year they're trying to do stuff. Of course, the COVIDs, they tried to shut everything down, and we just kept going. We just went to a place called the Secret Garden, and we just didn't stop doing the event. So yeah, they did it again this year. They tried to scare us all off. The funny thing is, it didn't scare anyone. And they actually had most of the top sort of independent alternative media people all there, and they started reporting on it. And Max Egan was out in the streets, Stan Dix, Patrick Henningsen, Josh Sigurdson, and most of them were saying, this is weird. It's just like a bunch of cars are on fire. And then they discovered actually that a bunch of the windshields had melted, which kind of indicates it was probably a directed energy weapon. And then everyone just went to Max's Crow House bar and just had a good time. And everyone says they can't wait to come back next year. So if they were trying to scare us, it didn't work. And if anything, we kind of exposed their whole thing.
Yeah, I didn't know that one about the windscreens, until you said it just now, because when I heard it, I found it kind of strange, because a friend of mine texted me and said, hey, Todd, be careful if you're going into the center, because they're burning cars and this and that and third. So when I heard that, I immediately thought, this could be something cartel related or something. So when I started to research it, I started to see, but then I started to see like all over the country. So I was kind of like, well, I'm not too sure, and then I like messaged Jason Christoph, and he told me yeah, that they got this thing going on, XYZ. But he said everyone's safe. People are shaken, but everyone is safe. And it's not as bad as what they're saying on the media. So I kind of knew, well, okay, something's not right. And, I do think that it was an event to try to just create massive fear because that's all they do. And this is why they have false flags. Now, you've become known for spotting false flags and psyops really early. What are the first tells that you look for now that make you think this story has fingerprints all over it?
Well, we're reaching a point now that any major event, I immediately assume it is something, an operation or a false flag. And I'm basically always right, because that's always the case. Like, there's no natural things that happen in this world for the since 9/11, really, that aren't some sort of an event, staged, a operation. Like the COVIDs is a perfect example of that. They said that everyone was going to die of this virus. There was no virus. They somehow got everyone to hide in their house for a few years. It's not like I go out and I look for false flags or operations, but even this World War III is clearly an operation. They're trying to destroy most of the oil and natural gas on Earth to cause massive famines, to cause lockdowns, to cause economic collapse, financial collapse, chaos, and things like that. And that's actually going to be happening. So, that's pretty clear. Like when you see all of a sudden, like most of the oil on Earth is all blown up, but they say, oh, it's because, Trump and Iran are doing something. Yeah, it's all a plan, though. In one way or another, that's what they wanted to do. And you see Russia's getting their stuff blown up by Ukraine. You see the US refineries getting blown up now. So this is very clearly an operation. I think, for the most part, you just look at it. I usually can see it like almost instantly now. Like even the Donald Trump assassination, I actually was doing a walk and talk and I got back. And the first thing I saw was Donald Trump almost got assassinated. I watched it real quick just once, and I was like, that doesn't look that looks staged. And I actually finished my walk and talk, and I said, I just saw it looks staged, but I'll look into it tomorrow. And then I looked into it more, and then you see all the photographers coming around. They lower the flag. He does his fight thing. He's got like a little bit of, it just nicked his ear, which is impossible. And then you look into it, and the shooter, and he couldn't have done it, and all these sort of things. So most of these things nowadays is that 9/11 is an excellent example of a false flag. They said it was guys in caves in Afghanistan with box cutters, obviously insane. Buildings, 3 buildings in New York fell at free fall speed. Not possible. There's 3,000 plus architects and engineers who've said that's just not possible. It was all staged. It was all an operation. And most things are. Mossad even went on 60 Minutes last year and said, we're the directors, we're the producers, we're the main actors, the world is our stage. And they do most of these things. And this is all part of the satanic pedivore group that's basically trying to destroy the world right now. So if there's any major event that happens, it's most likely done by them in one way or another. And it's probably not what you think it is.
Funnily, most people have never even heard of that 60-minute video. And I featured it on one of my walk and talks. And I was to say that because of your walk and talks, you inspired me to do walk and talks, even to the same setup with the DJI camera and the selfie stick and stuff, because it just works. But I digress. But I find that, these things are just rolled out in a way that it's almost like if it is a theater and it is just like to entertain themselves. Sometimes I get that feeling because like if they have nothing else to do. And so when you look at the Iran narrative and the way that these stories are rolled out, what do you think are the real objectives behind all of this? And is it all just theater?
Well, it's not just theater, right? Like people are actually dying and billions of people are probably going to die from the effects of this. But this is all part of their operation. They've wanted to lock down the world and get everyone to stop using what they call fossil fuels, which is not fossil fuels. Dinosaurs didn't even exist, but they've been wanting to do that for a while. It wasn't really catching on, though. A lot of people were waking up to this man-made global warming sort of a thing. So I think they decided, let's just destroy most of the oil and natural gas on Earth, and that will end up killing most of the people. They want to get it down to like 500 million people. That was on the Georgia Guidestones, which they actually just blew up a couple of years ago because they didn't want any evidence of it existing. So yeah, that's what they're trying to do, and that's what they're currently doing. And just based on everything I'm seeing, there's no way to even stop it at this point. That's why I say the next year or two is going to be the most insane period of time in human history, and people need to get ready for it. It's funny what you say, like it seems like they're bored or something. I would say that they are basically psychopathic, basically demonically possessed by a consciousness field, and they are super wrapped up in control, power, death, destruction. They actually feed off of it. They call it loosh. And so that's their power source. That's their food supply. So, I don't think they're bored. I think they're like, I wish they were bored. I wish they wouldn't do anything, but they actually live off all this stuff. This is their fun. So they are having fun. This is like huge fun for them. Like if they end up killing billions of people in the next couple of years, they are going to be on a high like none of us could even imagine. But yeah, they just keep doing these things. And I think they're speeding it up because I think they're losing a lot of their power. And this is something Christoph Melchizedek's been kind of helping with, is deconstructing all their black magic matrix stuff. And I think they can sense it's going away. And I think they know they only have a couple of years left. So they're throwing everything at us right now. Like I wouldn't doubt at all if the cyber attacks start soon. On top of it, they'll probably launch their COVIDs 2.0, which will be setting off the graphene and nanotech in people's bodies via the 5G and the Starlink, using AI to control people, to kill certain people. Yeah, they're going for it right now. This is like the end of days for them. This is the final chapter of the apocalypse, and it's going to be messy. But if you're smart and if you're connected to source and you listen to your gut and your instincts and your intuition, and you make sure you're physically, mentally, and spiritually as optimal as possible, you'll probably do fine through this. But you're going to have to do all those things. You're going to have to be really good physically, mentally, spiritually. Be very conscious, be very aware of the signs, the symbols as they're given to you, to basically weave your way through this total demolition that they're going to be doing here.
You know what I find really fascinating about everything you shared just now, and especially like the term you use now, pedivores. It is absolutely blatantly obvious that this is what they are. But the state of consciousness that people are in now, it is just like, meh, whatever. And I'm kind of like, don't people actually like realize that their entire government, everybody that is of somebody is in the cult? They eat children, and no one is actually up in arms about it. And I don't know if it's that the frontal lobe just doesn't work anymore, but I find it really, really shocking, because even my own country, Barbados, is in the Epstein Feld, Apes Hill, right? Imagine, and I was shocked because, Barbados is only 300,000 population, and like Apes Hill is one of the most affluent places in Barbados, right? You just can't get in there. And the emails show that he was involved in there as well. And yet still, people are just going on through their day and not realizing that they're being controlled by these pedivore, satanic, mind-controlled psychopath people that are telling them every day that they must pay taxes. And they're just going every day to their job to work their nice 40 hours a week and think they will retire on 40% of their salary and do it for 40 years of their life. But that bubble is going to be burst very, very soon. And I'm not sure how people are going to handle it, because they're just not really looking at themselves in the mirror. And so, at the deepest level, what do you think people still do not want to admit? That it is ultimately a financial crisis, a psychological war, a spiritual war, or all three together?
Well, I can't really speak for everyone, right? Or anyone. I don't know. I think everyone's got their own individual reasons. They've been so under attack. Like humanity's been under attack for millennia. Just the government indoctrination camps, the television programming, they're chemtrailing them to put aluminum in their brain. They're fluoride in the water, which turns off their third eye. I think a lot of it is mostly that stuff, lowering the testosterone in men through so many different ways that there's hardly any men who even are like men anymore who want to fight for, what's right or anything like that. That's the state of most people in the world today. And that's why I don't necessarily worry about trying to wake them up. I think we're beyond that now. Like we can still do that, and that can happen. But the real focus needs to be on what we're going to do to survive what's coming right now. And that's where we should focus. Just focus on yourself, do the work yourself. Once you've done the work, you can help other people, like your own family, your friends, other things like that, if they want the help. A lot of people don't even want it. They're kind of like stuck in the matrix. And, that's going to be another hard part for a lot of people, right? And you already pointed that out. You've got a lot of friends and family who just think you're crazy now. You haven't said one crazy thing on this entire podcast we've talked about. I'm sure if I was talking to them, I'd hear 1,000 crazy things. They'd be like, oh, well, we went to the moon and played golf. And, then there was Osama bin Laden in a cave. And I'd be like, holy cow, you're insane. Like, I can't even talk to them. But that's just the state of things, right? What can you do? Just do what you do, right? Follow your passion, follow your intuition on what you think you should do, and really just mostly take care of yourself at this point. And when you do that work, you change everything around you as well. That's the thing.
Absolutely. And Jeff, recently, when I was in Barbados, I was speaking to one of my members of family, and I totally forgot that they were a normie. I totally forgot, because I haven't spoken to them in years. And when I started to delve into the Anunnaki stuff and that how government just means mind control, they absolutely freaked out. When they tell you freaked out, Jeff, they literally started to put their hands on their ears. I said, I don't want to hear, I don't want to hear, I don't want to hear. And I was like, wow, it was such a shock to me. And then I remembered, they're a normie. And I couldn't have this conversation with them. So it's kind of sad, but like you rightly said, it's really a matter of people having to do the work on themselves and really going into themselves internally, working on their fears and traumas, trying to sort out the programming, because we're all programmed, because all of us went through schools which are public indoctrination camps for many years of our lives. And, what really happens when you go to school is that you come out and you have no life skills. You don't know how to start a business. You don't know how to write a business plan. You don't even know how to attend an interview. You don't know the difference between credits and debits. You don't know like how to actually be a good citizen in terms of trying to think for yourself, because school tells you what to think and not how to think, right? And if you teach people how to think, then most people wake up. But sadly, because of generational trauma, like one of my mates says that humans are the only species that teaches their young how to be slaves. And it is actually very true. We come up doing the exact same things over and over and over. So with that being said, what is the most dangerous idea you hold today? Not the one that sounds wildest, but the one that would radically change how people live if they truly accepted it.
Well, I should say, I don't think any of my ideas are dangerous at all. I think they are like the most rational, logical, best ideas, that's about how things should work. I think when you say dangerous, I think what you're saying is dangerous to people who are under mind control and who are in basically a cult. I guess, there's actually really nothing you can do for the most part to wake those people up. You can't use logic to do it. That's for sure. That's actually why The Jones Plantation is such a great movie, because it helps to break the mind control. If people watch that movie and they're, believing in government and stuff like that, by the end, they might actually start to realize some of these things, right? But there's no way you can tell them that. They have to see it in a way that it doesn't seem like confrontational to them, like you're trying to tell them the way the world is or anything like that. And the only other way to change people that are around you is to change yourself. And I've actually seen that myself in the last 10 years of doing self-work, meditation, iboga, hypnotherapy. I've actually changed my entire family and massively, like absolutely massively. I've changed every single person in my family. Our entire family is a million times better. And it would never have been that way unless I did that work. But once you do that work, you open the door for them to at least see that that is possible. And then things can change. And it actually very energetically can change as well. Like even my 3-year-old son, something changed after I did iboga and I dealt with my family traumas that I had and my family had for millennia. And he's 3 years old. He didn't know where I was. He didn't know I was doing iboga. And as soon as he saw me, he treated me completely differently because I had energetically changed. So that's, again, what you do. Once you deal with some of these issues, these traumas, these programs, you actually have an energetic change that affects the people around you. And all of a sudden, they treat you very differently. In the case of my son, he was way more like open to being like loving with me and stuff like that. Whereas in the past, he wasn't, because he could see the energy of this family trauma and he didn't want to come too close to it smartly. But once it was gone, and he didn't know it was gone, but he sensed it, because especially when you're really young, you're very conscious. You sense like all the energy. You're really not even paying attention to words and all that stuff that much. You can feel and sense the energy. So by doing the work yourself, you will actually change people around you. It might not be immediate and might take a while, and it might not work. Some people are just too far gone, but that's the only chance you have to help other people, is to change yourself.
I completely agree with that statement. And this is why I tell people all the time, don't focus on trying to change the world. Just focus on changing yourself, because when you change, the world around you changes. And then eventually we can change the world because we're changing ourselves collectively. And I think that this is one of the stages that a lot of people go through when they first start to wake up, because, there's anger and frustration. And then when they start to get information, they try to proselytize to people and try to wake people up. And then they get more frustrated because people are not listening. And then they become black-pilled, and then they think that it's all doom and gloom and nothing will ever change. And then if they go a little bit further and they do like what you and I did, we lean into the spiritual aspect, then it starts to really make more sense, where it is actually just about you and your journey, your path, your purpose. And one of the things I think is really important for people to realize is, what contribution do you have for the world? Because we need to shift our mindset from what is it that I can get, but what is it I can give? And the more we actually focus on what we can give to the world, it means then that we have the entire population giving. So it means that we're all receiving at the same time. So instead of thinking about ourselves first, we think about others, and then others will think in us, because, you can't give someone something that you don't already have. So when you love yourself, you can give love, and people will give you back love, because it's a constant cycle of giving and receiving. And this is one of the blind spots that humanity has. And I trust that this conversation today has done a lot to spark the seeds of, people wanted to make that first step to change. And I think that we've done a good job here today of touching, moving, and inspiring people to, invent and create a new possibility for themselves, because we all can, we all will, and we all have done it, because this battle is already won, in my opinion. We just need to actually confirm it inside of ourselves first, and then the rest will happen. Jeff, this has been an awesome conversation. I really enjoyed it. And, please tell the lovely people at the Conscious Man 7 where they can find you, what else you're up to, and anything that you can help them with, especially like learning about some of the things that we spoke about. Tell us about your book and all of that good stuff.
Sure. So on the financial stuff, you actually can make fortunes as everything collapses. And that's what we're planning to do at the Dollar Vigilante. Just go to dollarvigilante.com. I'm on Twitter at Berwick Jeff. I'm heavily shadow banned, but I'm on there. We're actually still on YouTube. We're back on YouTube. If you look up, you actually can't find it by even searching for it, but it's at Dollar Vigilante on YouTube. But you can actually find all our videos at vigilante.tv. And actually, we have a ton of great other shows, podcasts, Max Egan, David Icke. We have your show on there as well at vigilante.tv. That my book, if you really want to understand how a lot of this was all put into place over the last century or so, it's called The Controlled Demolition of the American Empire. I also am a huge advocate of the Tesla plasma machine, which has just recently been discovered after it was taken away from Nikola Tesla by Donald Trump's uncle and the CIA. I would highly suggest that people look into it. Go to their website, tzla.club, and that basically you can basically de-age with it. I've de-aged by over 20 years with it. It heals everything, including everything, cancer, everything. There's been people who've been paralyzed. They can now walk from the plasma. And it's just plasma that's actually in the ether. See, everything's actually all around us, and we can actually have everything we want. We can manifest everything we want. I think we used to be like those people in the movie Avatar, those blue people. The people coming in trying to destroy everything, that's the satanic pedivore group. But if we remember who we are, we actually have access to all these things still. We just have to remember that we do, including things like plasma. We can change this world dramatically if you stop giving them all your energy, which is using their currency, which is giving them your money, which is currency, which is energy. If you stop living in fear, worry, depression, sadness, anger, jealousy, all those sort of things, that gives them energy as well. And also, it's very bad for you personally. So work on all those things, do the work yourself, get into nature, that sort of a thing. I think that's about it. There's an Anarchapulco, probably going to do it in Puerto Vallarta again next year, if it's possible. With the way the world's going, doesn't look like it. But who knows? Miracles can happen, and things can change. If enough people start waking up, we will change this timeline. So it's actually up to everyone watching this if an event like Anarchapulco can happen next year, because if enough people change, it will. And if enough people don't, it probably won't be possible next year. So it's going to be a very interesting times ahead. And so thanks for having me on. It's always great to see you at Anarchapulco. And I love a lot of your views you've got on a lot of things as well. Every time we talk, it's like for an hour, and I'm like, holy cow, that's incredible information. So for anyone who's watching this, I'm going to put this out on my channels. Make sure they check out your show. I think you're on YouTube, right? You're also on vigilante.tv.
Everywhere. I followed you. I done Brighton, BitChute, Rumble, Odyssey, everywhere.
Great. So for my audience, definitely check out your show.
Yeah, thanks for that. And guys, as Jeff just said, you need to work on yourself, because you need to become the best version of yourself to prepare yourself for what's coming. So if you would like to get into the best shape of your life and you would like to grow mentally, physically, and spiritually, hit me up on my Instagram at Adriano_246 or my name, Todd Cave, on Facebook. Send me a message. Let's have a chat and let's see if I can help you. And you can also see if you're a good fit for the Compound Body Training Army. And if you would like to start a spiritual journey, or you are currently on a spiritual journey and you would like to have some help removing some fears and traumas, I can help you to get some magic mushrooms. So hit me up on my socials at Adriano_246 or my name, Todd Cave, on Facebook. Send me a message and let's help you on your spiritual journey. If you would like to support this podcast, you can do that by visiting our merch store. We have some cool tank tops, hoodies, shirts, and sweats. Link will be to our Amazon store, Todd and me, in the description of this podcast. And today I have on the Conscious Man 7 shirt. So if you want to become part of the Conscious Man 7 family, link will be in the description of this podcast. And if none of those things resonate with you, but you would like to also support this show, you can become a member of our Patreon or Locals. you will get early access to all the podcasts. And if you're listening to this show on one of the podcast platforms and you simply don't like ads, you will get ad-free podcasts on Patreon and Locals. You can also get to talk to me because I get a lot of messages on social media and I reply to those messages there first. So become a part of the Conscious Man 7 family. Help us out on the podcast. It helps us out with video editing and stuff like that. And just for just a few bucks a month, you can get, like I said, direct access to me. And lastly, don't forget to check out the sponsor of our show, The Kembo, at thekembo.com to get yourself some cool organic pyramids, some tower busters, or some jewelry. And that produces the orgo energy, which is the life source energy, and will help combat against those nasty EMF waves, chemtrails, and all of that other negative stuff that they're trying to pump us with. And if this episode woke something up in you, share it. If it challenged you, comment. If it made you uncomfortable, pay attention, because that is often where the deepest truth begins. And if you want more conversations on truth, freedom, consciousness, health, sovereignty, and the forces shaping the reality, follow the Conscious Man 7 podcast and tell us which part of this conversation hit you the hardest. Jeff, many thanks for being a guest on the Conscious Man 7 podcast today. This was a truly awesome conversation. And like you said, whenever we speak for more than an hour and a half. Very, very easy. So thanks for being a guest onto the show.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And to all the Conscious Man 7 family around the world, thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for supporting the mission. And thank you for choosing to look inside of you to heal, as it creates a ripple effect in the world. This was another episode of the Conscious Man 7 podcast, the place where we go beyond the veil in search of the truths that they hide from you to help you reclaim your power and step into the truest version of yourself. You are the help that you've been looking for. So remember, folks, keep smiling, keep shining, and keep being the change you want to see. Speak to you soon. Cheers and namaste.